Hi everybody, this is Haley here, and this is my presentation on the case of Mary Frances Early, talking about her life and legacy. As you can kind of see through these pictures, she had a really big impact on UGA history, and I'm excited to teach you more about her. So just an overview of what we're talking about. Mary Frances Early is the first Black graduate of the University of Georgia, and through this I want to tell you about some of her experiences while she was at the college and her legacy that she has left afterwards. I also wanted to tell y'all a bit about my personal connection to Mary Frances Early. The College of Education was actually named in her honor while I was still attending the college. So I was able to actually go to the ceremony and see her in the flesh. And it was really just the first big, racial event, I think, that I got to see with my own eyes. And it just had a really amazing impact on me and really made me proud to be here at Georgia. Right, moving on to her life before being at Georgia. She was born in Atlanta in 1936. She's a Georgia girl. So bright, so smart. She was first chair clarinet, which is also the instrument that I played when I was in high school. So I think that's a really cool connection. I didn't know about that until researching for this. And then she graduated as valedictorian from high school and also as valedictorian when she graduated with her bachelor's degree from college. So just an amazingly bright woman. She's always loved music. She's always loved classical music. But unfortunately, when she was really young, the symphony orchestra in Atlanta was segregated. Blacks were not allowed to attend. So instead, they got together record players and radios and different things so that they could enjoy music together. And this is, I think, a really amazing quote just about how music brings you joy to everyone, doesn't matter where you come from. And that is just so important for students. So I encourage you to read that. So, inspiration for Miss Early came from two really big sources, were both of her parents. So, first of all, she was really inspired by her father because her father um, owned a couple different businesses or properties and different things, and just watching him persevere through the face of adversity and different things, she really got to watch him continue to fight that battle and be a really strong force. She also actually got to interact multiple times with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. There's some funny interactions between these two. Um, Back to her dad. He sang for different community events and at a church. So Early was actually put into piano lessons when she was really young, about 8 or 9, so that she could accompany her father together. And that really just started the love of music. Um, Unfortunately, he did pass away when she was only 12, so a really big impact really early. However, her mother survives throughout her whole childhood and really inspired her for the love of books and education. She spent so many hours in the library reading. It was funny, she was told to go spend time in the library every day after school and to not be in the restaurant because her father's restaurant sold beer. So they didn't want her around the alcohol. So her older brother had to work in the restaurant, but she, as a woman, was paid an allowance to go to the library every day. And luckily, the only library in the area that admitted blacks was right across from her father's restaurant. So she had really good access to books where maybe other people of her certain race definitely wouldn't have access to that. So then she continued to pursue her career in music education and become a band director, which she still had to fight for a bit, actually, because she was a woman. When she went into music, a lot of people told her that as a woman that she should teach choir or general music, but she said, no, I want to teach band. So it was very interesting at the time that she did end up teaching some choir and some general music, but she still pursued her dreams of directing bands. And this led to her starting her master's degree at the University of Michigan. But she saw these two trailblazing students at UGA who inspired her to make a courageous decision. And this is kind of a quote about courageous decision that she made. She said, "I chose the road less traveled by because I saw the need to do something, and I chose to come to the University of Georgia, and I wanted to open the doors for graduate students, and I had to make a contribution to make our state better. And the thing I knew I could do was go to school, so that's what I did." So let's talk a little bit more about that. So, starting at Georgia, like I said, she was inspired by Hunter and Holmes. These two, in January of 1961, enrolled at UGA under court order so that the school would be desegregated. So those two were by themselves, and because of this, there was so many protests by students and riots and just different things that were making campus crazy. And Miss Early was actually watching the events go down on the news, on television in her home, and that's what really inspired her to go join and help them. So she enrolled in the graduate program. Something I actually learned through this was that Holmes and Hunter were also her high school classmates. They went to high school together, so even though they were several years apart, they knew each other and they were friends, and so she decided to go help her friends, even though her mom was very hesitant and very worried. And in response to her mom, this is what Miss Early said. She says, "Mama, I cannot stand by on the sidelines and wait and watch until somebody else solves the problem. I want to be part of the action," which is just amazing. So she started her application process, and that took 5 months, which apparently was definitely longer than it needed to be. I'm not sure how the whole process worked at that time. And she also had to deal with several uncomfortable interview questions, which was just so rough because she had already had so many years of experience, and she was going back for her master's. So she had already been working in a couple different elementary schools. She had already proved her success, yet she had to sit through some pretty awful interviews. Something else to note was that everything else in Athens was still segregated, so she couldn't go to any of the shops or restaurants, and that led her to do a lot of studying. She said she worked really hard, studied really hard, and that's how she spent her weekends or going home to be with her family and her church. So in the classroom, she was mostly attacked by students. Just people were hostile with her, people were rude to her for no reason. But she did find that the professors were actually really supportive. They tried to not treat her any differently. They just kind of did the best that they could. And she also found that often the professors just ignored any hostile students instead of confronting them. And she said that really, she thinks this was probably the best outcome, to lead to the least conflict. But it's also hard to think of what if those professors and teachers could have done something different in order to help her and make her feel less lonely. She does say that loneliness was a really hard piece throughout her time there. So, like I said, there was a lot of acts of hate. Here's just a few examples. Her car was vandalized by red spray paint. She was locked inside a piano room. They put a big rock in front of the door to lock her inside of it one night. She got rocks thrown at her at the post office, lemons thrown at her in the dining hall, and was barred from the library by a line of students. They wouldn't let her through. But eventually they broke ranks, and I really appreciate this quote that she said that kind of just puts the mentality behind the opposition here. It says, "And I actually felt sorry for them, because you can often look into people's eyes and see what their conviction is. And there were students who you look them in the eye and they would soften, and you knew they didn't believe in this, but they felt they had no choice." So she knew that many of the white students that she interacted with maybe didn't believe in this at all, but didn't feel like they had the power to do anything else. She actually had some students who showed kindness to her that I read, but Early often actually pushed them away so that they wouldn't receive any backlash. She was appreciative, but also didn't want them to be hurt. And through her time there, she did make it. She earned her master's degree in music education in 1962, making her the first Black graduate of UGA, because her master's degree was shorter than the bachelor's degree that Hunter and Holmes were after, so she graduated first. And later she actually came back in 1962 to get her specialist education degree. And in 2013, she received an honorary doctorate of law from UGA during the 2013 commencement. So let's talk about her work after UGA. So a lot of people talk about she's just an amazing teacher. She worked in so many different Atlanta schools, still really segregated schools a lot of the times, and they had segregated band competitions, so they had to drive several hours to get to the black band competition, and people were still really judging her for her gender and the fact that she wanted to be a band director. This picture here behind it is actually a all women's band that she put together, which I thought was really cool. And she continued teaching after she retired from the public school system at Morehouse, Spelman, and Clark Atlanta, just impacting thousands and thousands of students. She was also viewed as an amazing leader. While she was working in the Atlanta public school system, she was promoted to being the music director of the whole Atlanta public school system. So she was in charge of curriculum, budgeting, and a lot of other stuff. And also in 1981, she was elected as the first Black president of the Georgia Music Educators Association. And through this opportunity, she went all around Georgia trying to encourage students, increase diversity, and she really pushed to increase diversity when it came to honor bands and different people going out and auditioning for the higher level bands. Some other accomplishments here, a really big one was that she created a documentary, as some people at Georgia decided to make a documentary about her, and she was part of that. That was created in 2018, and also in 2018, she received the highest honors at UGA, which was the President's Medal. And this all kind of leads to the pinnacle here, where the naming of the College of Education after her. So on February 25th, 2020, the UGA College of Education was renamed the Mary Frances Early College of Education, and this made this the first college or school at UGA named after a Black person, which was just so awesome. I think everyone at the College of Education was just really excited about this, and loved that we were making this movement towards showing off this amazing person and everything that she had done through the school. They did hold a gala beforehand and different things, and they were accepting donations to support scholarships for students who needed to overcome obstacles similar to Early, and also support different diversity movements on campus. Last thing here, Early was actually quoted saying that the naming of the college was the zenith of her career, which was just so cool. And a lot of people different expressed, and I agree with this, that we were just so glad that she got to experience it within her lifetime, because definitely her impact at the time was not seen as amazing as it really is. So I love that we have taken the time to look back now and appreciate everything that she's done for our school. Thank you, Mary Frances Early. And these are my references here. There's a lot of definitely cool resources that UGA has put out there if you want to learn more. All right. Bye, you guys.